I would say good morning, but it's like literally 5 minutes of morning left. So good afternoon, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Spilling Tea. I am your host, Tiffany Daniels, in a very decidedly not stupid o'clock. As you see, I look a little bit more like myself on the weekends because it's my vacation, and at least the pain in my arm has subsided enough so I could unzombify myself for this morning's episode. We're going back to that horrible world known as the JRC as per usual. But before we get started, a few disclosures. Number one, I am in major, 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 major autistic fog brain this morning. So, if you see some staring off into space or some non-coherent rambling. I know I didn't yesterday. Today it's likely. Just know. Just know. Okay, so as always, this train wreck of a report is going to be linked right there in the description box, along with the other pertinent links to the Stop the Shocks campaign, including Lydia Brown, aka Autistic Koya's massive archive on the subject. The blah. See what I mean? See what I mean? Also, the templates, folks. You know the drill. Fill out your name, click on your senator. Let's stop punishing disabled people for being disabled. Let's end adversive treatments, especially in schools, especially in public schools, and improper restraints. It causes so many deaths every year. And also the ever-present change.org Shut the Judge Rotenberg Center Down petition. Because these are crafty bastards, along with being corrupt, incompetent, and cruel beyond all human reason. And the only way I say of saving these kids and the next generation of disabled in the Boston area is by closing these bastards the hell down. So sign it if you haven't already. Share it on your social media. And even if you've already shared it before, share it again. All right, so we are getting to. God, this hair is getting annoying. It's getting my eyesight so annoying. Okay, so we are going to where we left off yesterday. But before we do, fog brain, remember? When we are talking about the JRC, you're going to hear vivid descriptions of, as well as see clips from video surveillance camera footage of people with disabilities being tortured and abused. If you have young children present, please use your headphones. Also, obviously, fog brain is clouding out everything. Not so much as yesterday, but yeah, it's there. It's like my brain is full of cotton at the moment. It even feels like it's full of cotton. So, if I mumble incoherently, or if I ramble or stumble over my words, my apologies in advance. So, injury and illness. Staff must notify a member of the monitoring department and complete an incident report. Monitoring will notify nursing, student services, the student's case manager, and clinician. The nurse will notify parent, guardian, or DDS if more than first aid is administered. Isn't that interesting? Okay, folks, think about that, and here's what I want you to think about it. They are doing two things with this. Number one, they're trying to act like anything that doesn't end up the kid in a freaking hospital isn't a big deal. Anything that they do that can be fixed by first aid, they're trying to say isn't a big deal. Think about that for a minute. Think about what the judge is saying here. It is literally saying, we don't give a damn if these kids and young adults get hurt unless it ends them up in the hospital. Now, why is that? The judge is trying to do two things. The school's trying to do two things. It's trying to minimize the damage of their so-called treatment, what it does to the kids and the minds of the public. Number two, what it's trying to do is cover their tracks. It's trying to cover their tracks because the fact that they only have to report it if it is damaging enough to end up the kid in a damn hospital, and only according to judgment to the doctors and nurses and clinicians that are on their payroll. Think on it. Think on it. And ask yourself, in any other home that we know of, group home or otherwise, or day program, would that be allowed? No. I know this because, again, I've worked in the field. Every injury is documented, whether it is a lesser injury or not, whatever the cause of it may be. It is documented and it is sent to the case managers. It is sent to the coordinators, as we call them out here. Case coordinators, case managers, mainly known as case managers and coordinators out here. And then, if it was a situation where they felt like I needed to be involved, which did happen on occasion, it was then made available for me. So, yeah, just very interesting tidbit there. If a staff member is injured, the injury coordinator or a member of HR, as well as a member of the monitoring department, must be notified. Staff must also complete an incident report and injury report. Again, look at how much all of this is in-house. Their HR, their monitoring department, their nurses, their doctors, their clinicians. Interesting, isn't it? Why wouldn't it be reported to an outside authority? Even if it's minor. That's required out here because a minor injury may be indicative of abuse and neglect. That's a major thing out here in my state. Major thing. The smallest thing can indicate a much deeper problem. But apparently, for JRC and Massachusetts, this is not a thing. For such a progressive state, when versus a Bible Belt state, a very decidedly, depending on what part of it you are in, non-progressive almost as a whole state, it just makes you wonder, doesn't it? Makes you wonder. Emergencies. Remember what they consider emergencies, folks. Just saying. Staff are instructed to call 911 in a serious emergency situation. In the event of any emergency, staff must notify monitoring, who will then make the proper notifications. They always go to monitoring first. Do you notice that? They always go to monitoring first. Why do you think the staff did not question that prank caller? Because everything goes through monitoring. Everything goes through monitoring first. And then this judge who says, yes, everything should go through monitoring. It's like there is no common sense here. None. Who will then make the proper notifications? And we're just going to trust their word for it. Sure. Sure, Jan. Sure. During the evening hours, the DVR office must notify the overnight school supervisor, nurse, treatment team, and programming. Again, in-house, 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 in-house. The overnight school supervisor would notify Glenn Kurtz, the executive director, and Robert Duquette, the director of human resources. Look at everyone this goes through in-house before the parents are notified. Yeah. Damage control much? GED notifications. The quality control department must be notified every time there is a GED application. The staff must report why, who was there, what time, what were the antecedent behaviors. If the GED application happens at night, the DVR Quality Control Department will notify the nursing department and overnight school supervisor immediately. DVR also sends a page to the student's clinician. I'll say it again, it's all in-house. How can somebody not see the corruption here? No outside sources are agreeing with this. No one from the outside. Just God. DVR also sends a page to the student's clinician, like we already said. All in-house. All in-house. It is a wonder that the cases and the victims that have spoke up, that we even have those resources, the way they have this set up. It's like they use more organization and forethought into cover up and hiding what they're doing than they actually do treating the students there or training their staff. If a student receives 10 GED applications, the designated supervisor must notify the clinician immediately. Notice it's not an outside clinician. I wonder how much different things would be if this school would even still be open if they had to notify somebody outside that school. The clinician will notify the assistant to the director for programming and monitoring DVR of any authorization to go above 10 GEDs. Again, I'll say it. It's all in-house. Of course they're going to get permission. Of course they're going to get it. They torture us. And if you think they give a damn about our well-being, Judge, yeah. If a student exhibits a GED-targeted behavior that receives multiple GED applications, remember what those targeted behaviors are. And for people who are new to the whole Judge Rotenberg Center, let me key you in on those. Defiance or non-compliance, which means stopping at their work for more than 5 seconds, blinking too often, standing up in their seat without permission, the same shit that normal kids do in school every day, wrapping up their legs around their desks. Guess what? That is something kids do. I've seen regular, neurotypical high school kids do that when I was in school. I've seen them do it in college. Also, asking to go to the bathroom more than once, even if the first request is not even answered. The list goes on what they consider targeted behaviors. If you would like a little bit more information on what they think are punishable offenses and appropriate behaviors to torture us over, please go into the description box. Linked in there is Jennifer Masumba's official behavioral sheet, the reasons that they justified for shocking her. Please take a take a look at it. It's a real eye opener. Okay. If there is a GED misapplication, spontaneous application, or duplicate application, Staff must notify a member of the monitoring department and fill out a GED trouble report and incident report. The Director of Clinical Services, the Director of Human Resources, the student's court-appointed attorney, and the Executive Director are all notified in the event of a misapplication. Again, I'll say it, but is it anybody outside this corrupted system? Notice how it says the student's court-appointed attorney. If you have judges signing off on this, you really think those court-appointed attorneys are doing anything? Did a court-appointed attorney for Britney Spears do anything? I rest my case. If a GED must be removed from a student, staff must notify the monitoring department, who will notify the case manager and the clinician. For God forbid they not be on that for like 5 minutes. Restraint. When any use of restraint is used, staff must notify the monitoring department, who will notify the HOP, the nursing department, the case manager, and the clinician. If there is an elopement, what is elopement? Elopement is when these kids have enough and decide that they would either rather die than deal with this place, and will literally run like hell, like Jennifer Masumba did. If there is an elopement where the student is still in sight, staff must first contact monitoring. If there is a pursuit and the student is not in sight, the staff must first call 911 and then monitoring. And God fucking forbid they manage to free themselves from your hellhole. Threats to harm self or others. The staff member recognizing the threat must report it to the supervisor in the classroom or residence immediately and complete a therapy note. The supervisor must report it to the monitor. Now, you know how some of us, when we hear something nonsensical, we'll just say, oh God, please fucking kill me now? I do it all the time. Well, the JRC would say that is a threat of self-harm. And I would be shocked for it, in spite of the fact that it is simply, it's a misnomer. I'm not going to actually ask someone to go kill me. I'm not going to kill myself. It's just a phrase. But to them, that is a shockable offense. Tracking. We'll get to that one tomorrow. So let's go over what we learned today. When any of these incidents occurs that looks like they might go out into the modern media, they have people do all this reporting. But what they report all goes to people in-house. In fact, it goes through all these levels of the JRC with no one from the outside being reported to at all, before it is then sent to the parents, which is, I find, really interesting. It's actually the inverse in my state. First of all, the case manager is always separate from whatever program you might be a part of. The case managers come from the state. I know, because I worked in that very same state building. That my job was to help train new case managers and case coordinators, as they're called out here. They were separate and outside of the programs that these kids were a part of. And why do I feel like that's important? Because that means that program cannot line the case manager's pockets to report a certain way. It is in outside person. Also, these programs have to report things, incidents, where there's any harm of any kind, no matter how minor, to the case manager who is not in-house, who is not being paid by the program, who is then a non-biased person. And they have to investigate. And why do they have to investigate, no matter how minor the harm to the person might be? Because no matter how minor it is, it might be indicative of abuse, neglect, coercion. The list goes on. Every incident out here is investigated. When it seems like it is something that they feel the person with the disability needed to have someone come out there and be on their side, as allowed to them by ADA law, I would then become involved and I would go out to the group home and I would be there as the person that would be there on the behalf of the person with the disability. The case manager would be there as the non-biased mandated reporter, and then you would have the other people there. Not so in Massachusetts, and you have to wonder why. Why is it we out here in our backwards ass state, and it's pretty backwards, why is it we can see that things like this need to be investigated by a non-biased outside party who does not benefit in one way, leaning one way or another? Yet a so-called progressive state such as Massachusetts, on the other hand, seems absolutely nothing wrong with doing everything in-house. That with the programs literally lining the pockets of the people who work for this school. They are not a non-biased party. You see where I'm going with this. And on that note, we're going to go ahead and shut out for this morning. There might be more videos, there might not. I'll just have to keep an eye on things. Now, we don't get very many views on this channel. The few that we do tend to get removed from time to time. So folks, please don't forget to hit that like button, hit subscribe, don't forget to hit the comments. Feed that algorithm. I do appreciate your time this morning. And as always, we here at Spilling Tea hope you have a good one. Bye-bye.